Wow, we've been praising all night the return of a leader of men, a champion of all causes, the effervescent, the king, the master of ceremonies, ringleader, bass fisherman, beer drinking, barbecue specialist, genius, talented, entertaining, the return of Serve, the return of Glory, the return of
TC and Jake.
Have been doing a little bass fishing, so that's all accurate.
Barbecuing. Have you done any of that?
Yeah, I'm a beer drinking barbecue salesman, master. I don't know. What's he say?
I don't know. It doesn't
I
seem
haven't
that
heard it
impressive to
recently.
me if it was just to be salesman.
Yeah.
That's not like
What's the most impressive kind of salesman in your opinion? Is there something? Is there a word?
arms.
Arm salesman. Oh, okay. I
Like-
thought you meant like prosthetics. You mean guns?
Yeah, like basically an arms dealer is just a salesman, right?
Yeah, that's true in a way.
I would say arms salesman, or just anything that deals with you selling war.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Even then, like if I met an arms salesman, I'd be like, "You're just a fucking salesman, dude. I don't have
Yeah,
to
but
respect you."
Okay, but we're on the spectrum of salesmen, though.
I know, but I just want to know if there's a word you could affix to salesman where you would break out of that. And if you
well-
can't on arms, then
That's a good point. Maybe if you can't on arms, because if you can foment a coup, and that doesn't impress you, then you're not going to be impressed.
yeah. I mean, if they were primarily a coup fomenter, but they like Sam of the Quaker City Nighthawks. I'm sure he's said this, a couple times. The way he said it sounded like it probably wasn't the first time, but one night was just like, listen, man, I'm pretty much just an alcohol salesman. And if it was like that, where like you were going around like fomenting coups for the CIA, but you had kind of like a resigned, like when it gets down to brass tacks, I'm pretty much just an arms salesman. Then he'd be kind of lying, like Sam is not actually just an alcohol salesman, like he's making music that helps people understand the human condition, and he's being humorous in short selling that. And so, yeah, I guess if someone was doing that in a similar way about arms dealers, then yeah, I would say that's different.
I don't want to meet the nihilistic arms dealer, the guy who's like, oh, all I'm doing is I would just move, widget A to receiver B. I want a guy who's coming in dick hard, like, look, I don't really have any politics in play here, but I help topple democratically elected regimes. I mean, that feels like the way they should carry it.
Yeah,
But
dude,
maybe that's
good
just
leaders
me,
protect
arms
you from
dealer.
having to use guns. That's why I take them out with
How's the
guns.
beach?
Ironically, dude, it's so great. I mean, I love the beach. You have been to Galveston. Is there anywhere else I've missed in addition to Galveston as far as your child seeing the water?
Yeah.
Did you take a Florida trip?
Yeah, I can't remember. It wasn't Gulf Shores, but it was like Perdido Bay, Orange Beach. It was around that area, around
Okay.
where we go, but further in. Yeah, she saw that pretty early, which was still. There was my wife posted an Instagram video or a photo of me holding the child in the water, and obviously had the top popped. And probably like the nicest thing, and maybe one of the only nice things you've ever said to me or about me, was whenever you commented, are you able to take those guns across state lines? And I don't think it was ironic. I think I looked fucking yoked in that picture. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so she did that one, and I guess that's it, as long as like the splash pad doesn't count.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they like the splash pad, then like wait till they see the, it's like it's all part of the same thing, right? But just this is paradise, dude. My kid couldn't love it more. Everett around here, I have learned that if it's not a hangout weekend, that Gulf Shores is in fact a family friendly place.
Yeah.
And that because like everyone's same setup as us, like all up and down the beach. It's just parents and kids. And my brother's kid, his daughter. Certainly has some questions about the waves, and like if they're a certain height, she is way out. So I'm just establishing that I understand this is not a universal experience, that there's like some kids that like water more and some that like water less. But Izzy fucking loves it, dude. She loves it as much as I do. And whatever we are in Gulf Shores, as far as the person most likely to be wanting to wade in up to their neck and just get tossed around, just look at those big waves and say, "Fuck me up, bad boy." That's me. That's where I like being. And now
Definitely.
I just do that with her on my shoulders, and she fucking loves it.
I've seen you do it in the dead of night.
It was dusk yesterday when I was really getting down to it, but I think tonight this seems like the right time for an 11 p.m. Let's find out how many nocturnal fish there are here and, just knock it out. Yeah, no, last night at dusk, I was, I don't know, this is satire, okay? If we got any censors or employers listening. But yeah, popped an edible and just started walking around down there. The family was at dinner. Like, whatever, it's the whole thing.
But you weren't?
Well, like me and Megan had gone to lunch, and so like we were on a different schedule from everyone else. The dude, I guess I can just say, Adam, who got me the job in Pensacola, if I'm this close, I want to hang out and see him. So we got lunch with Adam, and at that point, like whenever we arrived home from the lunch, my parents were like, "Hey, we're going to dinner," and I'm like, "Okay." I don't think that would be ideal for me. And so yeah, it was just me, Megan, and I'm trying to remember. I think that Izzy was here the whole time and just like hanging. But anyways, it was a situation where most of the people were away from the thing. It wasn't weird if I popped an edible and walked on the beach for a while. I did. Yeah, dude, just like I figured out a new like roller coaster ride thing where if you can get, because I do always love going out there and just floating, just like taking a big breath of air so your lungs are full of air and you're buoyant and kind of throw your feet back and you can just drift on top there. And I don't know how I'd never really gotten like sucked into I think that most of the time when I'm getting close to the shore, I'll just like stop doing it and paddle out a little farther so I don't end up in it. But I was just making a game of intentionally getting caught in the part of the beach where the largest waves are being made and just trying to float on top and finding out that they will, in fact, if you get a big enough one, spin you around a full 360 degrees. Like just if you can be floating at the top of that curl when it curls, it'll just spin you. It's a hell of a time, brother. I recommend.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds close to death.
Yeah, it's what we're looking for. Most fun stuff is, what's a fucking roller coaster, dude?
Yeah, and I've vowed to never get back on one of those.
Unfortunate. So whenever we take joint family vacations to Six Flags, it's just going to be me and the kids.
Yeah, I'll go get the damn dude. What were those called? They used to have. I think they had them at Six Flags.
Churros.
Oh shit! Pink things.
Pink things.
Do you remember the pink
I do
thing
not
ice
remember
cream?
pink things.
Damn, they were phenomenal. Look it up if you ever curious about like maybe the only concoction that was ranked above the Dippin' Dot. I would go nuts over the pink thing ice cream.
We got a little Dippin' Dot cart not too far from the from where we're staying over here.
They're still cooking, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The future's always the future. That's the thing to remember.
That is true.
It never gets here.
Yeah, I'm a nips high guy when it comes to the ocean. That's about as. And I used to be all in, but I'm down to nips high.
Yeah, I feel like as a kid, I don't know why anyone would let me do this. I feel like I would always be like not really able to stand most of the time. And I don't know, I don't have the energy for that anymore. But I don't know. I wish I did live down here. I think they would have a positive impact on my energy levels generally. Like just whenever I'm sitting in Dallas, I mean, there are things that people do to get physical activity in Dallas, Texas. I just hope, I know that I don't enjoy them as much as swimming in the ocean. And so, you know, I just get out and do so much more stuff.
You'd be
And
fucking ripped.
I don't think I would be ripped. I think that, you know, I mean, like my caloric intake would not change. If anything, it would go up. But I think that there's some amount of like weighing the same weight, but like your cardiovascular system just works a little better. I think that's what I would get.
Well, there's also the fact that the ocean, the Gulf, sorry, Adam, is cold. And we know from WIM that does put your cardiovascular system into a little bit more of a stress position. And I've been doing that every day, by the way, dude. I'm feeling pretty good. Both the breath and the water.
Do you do them simultaneously?
No, I do one, then I get in the shower.
Okay.
I do it after running or lifting.
Because you're not supposed to do it
shower.
standing up. They will tell you that.
No, and like they even like Dan, when Dan first told me that he was like trying to, he was like, yeah, I was in my car. I was like, I don't know. You should not do that. Like you should not, you're going to pass out in your car.
Yeah. Kind of the worst place I could imagine passing out.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you're just dipping the toes a little bit. Let me ask you a very open-ended question that I have no answer for. So this comes to me from two different sources. One is the cartoon world. PBS Kids, big player in the house. Mm-hmm. And the other is I learned about a TV show that apparently was on Netflix called Kim's Convenience.
Okay, yeah, I've seen the tweets or whatever.
Okay.
Not a CanCon guy myself.
I don't know who that is.
Canadian content.
Okay, they actually have a word for it. That is way less cool than Bollywood.
That's a great point. No, in Canada, there's government laws about how much American shit can be shown on television. Because if there weren't, that's all it would be, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they have, like, you can only show so much. There's a requirement that you put on Canadian content, and I believe that is why they have found it necessary to shorten the word into something fun and poppy, like CanCon.
And that's probably also how people convinced themselves the Kids in the Hall was funny.
Yeah, certainly how Drake got a job.
Wasn't. Yeah, there you go. So when you see cartoons, we joked about this a few months ago. I don't remember if we talked about it on the podcast or just texted about it, Twitter or whatever, that people were mad that Bluey lacked representation.
Bluey?
The dog-based TV show, they're Australian dogs.
Okay.
Which makes the whole thing that much more ridiculous. But when you see cartoons that are attempting to be representative and not attempting to do so in a comedic, like Token on South Park way, do you ever think about how dicey it is to try to get that right? Because when you're trying to make somebody look more like their ethnicity, you have decisions to make.
Ooh, yeah. No, I had not thought about this, but yeah.
And so, and actually, it was Kristen that actually asked me about it. And I think that also goes to their vocal affect. And how exactly do you walk the line of like, which is better to just make essentially everybody look and sound the same, but have different, animated pigmentation? Or do you make people look possibly more or sound more like people of their ethnicity or demographic with their dialect and possibly even their facial features or whatever the case may be? And, the reason I bring up the Kim's Convenience thing is just because I had no idea about this show, but apparently it's primarily a depiction of Korean Canadians. But the several of the co-stars were upset that the production team was overwhelmingly white and that they had overtly racist storylines. And I even thought about this a couple of months ago when I first saw ads for there was a network sitcom. I would almost promise you it only made it 1 year, if that. And the crux of the storyline was a veteran of either Iraq or Afghanistan had come home, and some years later actually got a visa for his translator while he was overseas.
Okay.
And this was supposed to be like a funny family comedy, but they got a guy who, I don't know if he was Afghani or if he was Middle Eastern, but it's like he's going to come live with the family, and he had kind of like some wacky lines about it. My point was,
try to put a goat in a car.
Is it better when shows even try, or is it worse because they almost invariably get it wrong, or whatever wrong is, right? Like, so this Kim's Convenience show seems like it was almost exclusively, Korean actors, Korean American, Korean Canadian, whatever the case may be, but that the storylines they felt like were racist, frankly. And so I don't know. Is it just the cartoon thing really set me down this path? Then I just started thinking about how it's a good idea, because I do think representation matters for gender, for race, for sexuality. But I also think it's really hard to thread the needle.
See, I think the easy way to handle all this, I've got a clear answer. It's just have like whatever group you're trying to depict, just have that group staffing all positions throughout the entire creative process. Like if you have Korean writers and a Korean showrunner directing Korean actors, then, of course, Korean people can make mistakes the same way that everyone can, and can, result in something cringe, but like probably not. It seems way fucking safer than having white people be like, hey, Korean actors, say this shit. It's what we think Koreans would say.
Yeah, no, that's worse. But I think even in my own moral dilemma here, I think that I would worry that you're now treating whatever culture as a complete monolith.
Well, if we're fucking worried about that, then like that to me highlights how stupid this entire fucking thing is. I mean, like, clumsy depictions of other races are bad, and I'm not in favor of them. But like attempting to have some kind of like, now we've accurately captured a cosmopolitan vision of racial equality. Like, you're just not gonna get there. Like, yeah, dude, no person is their race. There's like a ton of other things about them, of which race, to varying degrees plays, plenty of times just like a middling part, I think the class stuff tends to matter about as much. I've noticed that there's a lot of musicians who have children, and then those children also become musicians. Do you think like the big thing driving their life was the fact that their parent was a certain race, or do you think it was that they were a musician?
Sure.
So yeah, I think that if your view is that every black person you see is like part of the black person group who all have shared characteristics and viewpoints, and then you try to execute that vision in a creative way, I think it's going to fail, because you're just wrong about your underlying assumption that all black people share certain characteristics, like aside from the color of their skin, and even there's plenty of variety, there's just a lot of fucking differences between people.
Yeah, the cartoon one is tough to me though, because is the idea now that you need, and maybe this is not a bad idea,
because they're all kind of caricatures anyways, like all cartoon characters. Yeah,
exactly. And when you already have, disenfranchised or disadvantaged groups that are used to being caricatured for entertainment, and now, so do you have to essentially hire an illustrator or an animator for each specific group that you attempt to depict on the show? And you might even need male and female.
It's not a terrible idea. I don't know.
It's not a terrible idea. It just sounds like it would be very cumbersome to me. because you can tell now
Yeah.
that shows do try a lot harder, like kid shows.
Yes.
And even with that, Bluey, which again is a family of Australian dogs, was being heavily criticized for not having enough representation. And I'll tell you what makes it.
I don't think
that
there's
even,
any representation in like packs of Australian dogs. I
no,
think they're all just Australian dogs, brother.
What makes it even funnier to me is for a long time, and maybe this is just my own biases. So it's a dad and a mom. The dad's real beaten, which is why I love the show, but he's all sweet, you know, even though he's kind of like he has a very like I'm trying to think like,
would you see him at Fuzzy's waiting on the family's to go order?
Yeah, and housing a big boy. He just seems like every beaten TGIF dad.
Mm-hmm.
But so the protagonist here, the protagonist for which the show is named after, Bluey, I found out like 2 weeks ago, Bluey's the daughter and the sister. I thought Bluey was the son and the brother. I have no fucking idea because they all sound like cartoons.
Yeah,
so it just struck me as odd that a show where I didn't even know the intended gender of one of the Australian dogs accurately after watching 50 episodes, that they were catching heat over representation, and then I blew my head off.
Yeah, I've been struggling, like as we talk about stuff like this, which we do often enough. I have a thought in the back of my mind, and I've been struggling to find a way to say it that like accurately captures the point I'm trying to make without like being inconsiderate or offensive. Because I don't mean to be inconsiderate or offensive, and I think that there is a truth here that I would like to examine, but like, you know, if I'm clumsy about it, then we're probably not going to be able to do that. So, you know, I don't know, dude. I think that there should be more tolerance of like what appears to be to me like a fact of our existence that like, not exclusively, but like that obviously people tend to want to be like around members of their race more often, and that like forcing a mixture is not like a universally positive thing. You know, like if you take that too far, like you'll be on stormfront.com every day, and that's
There's
not
also
where I
a lot
go.
of research that would say that on balance it is a positive thing.
Yeah, like that if we all just like stay in our lanes and stay in our groups, then like the groups that don't already have all of the power and money are going to be fucked for sure. You know, like I'm not saying this about like, you know, the fucking boardroom composition ought to be just white because people like being around other members of their group. You know, like there's big I'm mainly talking about like socially, and like I don't know, dude, that stuff fucking relates to income too, you know, like if you like my current position was, I feel I arrived at somewhat because of social connections. You know, I think that's common enough for most people. You know, so yeah, I get what you're saying, but like, I don't like just how as I'm watching the same shows you're watching, where every single show is aiming for like an exact precise, it's not a bad goal to have like a mix in every show, but like, I don't know, dude, it's also not the end of the world if, you know, fucking Asian people just hang out with other Asian people, because like, I think that does happen a decent amount. And I don't think that like trying to wash that out of media is, I don't know. I feel like most art should be trying to depict life as it is, right? Is there anything to what I'm saying?
Yeah, certainly. But that is, of course, the heart of this is, should it be a representation of what you would consider a more vibrant society, or of the one that exists? And I think that's all, you know, obviously the heart of this for 60 years now has been schools. And it was, I want to say, pretty early in the Bush administration where they rolled back the thresholds and the, you know, legal requirements for attempts at school integration. And those things had been on the books for a really, really long time. And I remember reading that because that was the first time I'd ever been presented with the idea that there are, you know, tangible effects, but not just on the those in a disenfranchised position, that it infects those in positions of power in ways. And by that, I'm talking about like 10-year-old white kids.
Yeah.
Like it impacts them positively as well. It's not necessarily a zero-sum game. It's that empathy, blah, 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 and down the line. So I don't really know. DJ TJ's on Cameo.
Hell yeah. How come you aren't playing it for me right now?
Well, so I wanted to talk to you about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's pull up because the rates are a bit variable.
Whatever it is, dude.
I know. So that was my thought, was that we would agree to split,
6,000 each. I'm in.
He's currently, and of course we're speaking of the father, patriot, outdoorsman, businessman, political commentator, and #1 New York Times bestselling author.
Is that what it says?
Yeah. $500.
Motherfucker can't read.
No. $500. And I think I'm in for $250. Just take a cut out of the next payment without telling me about it. Now, here's
no problem with that, dude. That's
okay.
I'm not even thinking twice.
Yeah, now it's really at this point it's just about us getting down to the copy.
Got to write the copy. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the part that also they give us the option here to pay for this with 4 interest-free payments of $125 each. Which I can't think of anything that says me and my essence more than financing a cameo from Donald Trump Jr.
I like every single time those come up. I mean, whatever. I'm sure that the people, whoever came up with the idea of I'm going to take a $40 internet purchase and make it so that they can make it in 4 interest-free payments of $10 a piece, like which it just seems to have like a switch flipped in the last like 6 months, maybe less. Where like every single thing, and I don't know, I'm just mad at myself for not coming up with that incredibly dumb idea that is obviously going to make people obscenely rich.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, for the big purchase, for like the new computer, if they'll give me 24 months financing, I will absolutely do that.
Yeah, every computer I've ever had, I've had, like 24 months interest-free financing. That's
but
great.
Whenever
I'm buying a pair of board shorts and they let me split it up a couple times, like someone's doing that. And then of those people, someone's not paying for the board shorts. And like there's a dude who just like every single time that an absolute idiot doesn't pay for their board shorts gets a little bit richer. And there's enough of those idiots that person is going to own this entire beach one day. And I just wish it was me. I mean, I really wish that you couldn't do that at all. It's pretty obviously predatory, but, whatever.
I think the dumbest one I've seen was, and this is probably a little bit pricier purchase than the board shorts, was it was to finance my beard care kit.
Yeah, I mean, I got to care for it now, but I don't have time to save.
It was like $85 for all 4 products, and it was like, you can split this into 4 easy payments of $21.50.
I mean, I got the beard now, so
God, that's beaten. Here's the weird thing about DJ TJ's cameo, though, is that it's not just how beaten it would be to finance that. For the low price of $19.99, you can send him a DM.
Oh, okay, cool. Will you send him the video that I sent you?
of Megan?
No, well, that one's good. Yeah, no, I captured a fun moment last night where the only thing she said was, "Please don't say anything else about Palestine." No, the clip that's sweeping the internet, where someone has cut up Kamala Harris saying, "Don't come," and paired it with Trump saying, "I'm gonna come," and the crowd cheering vigorously.
See, I haven't heard the Kamala lead-in.
Oh no, let me pull this thing up for you. Do I have it set up so it's gonna get captured?
Probably not.
Yes, no, I do. I'm very, very put together, smart guy when it comes to tech. Give me a second here. I'm pulling it.
You know what's a real bummer is that you can't enjoy some nice coconut shrimp tonight.
You're telling me, brother.
That sounds so fucking good, man. Especially
we're having
down
salmon.
there.
Does that make any sense?
No. It doesn't.
Yeah, we're by the beach. Let's get something flown in from Alaska.
Do
How
not
about
come.
a nice?
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
He does the hand wave. I love
Do
that
not
so
come.
much. Yeah, dude, let's do it again.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Can't stop me. Just right here, folks.
Oh man,
How great is that?
it's about as great as the fact that no one in the lamestream media or the MSM, I can't decide which one of those I like more. No one will cover Hunter Biden using the N-word.
Yeah, that is the thing that we could talk about with Donald J. Trump Jr. Because I've noticed that he talks about it fairly frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact
just
that
wants
he's
fairness,
so
you know?
focused on president's sons is great. Sorry, what's up?
No, I'm just saying Donald Jr. just wants it's like me with the NBA. Just call it the same both ways.
That's right. Yeah,
That's all
yeah.
I'm really asking for.
Yeah. You said I was a racist because I said that other races aren't as good, but now look at him. He uses the N-word in texts with his lawyer. Like, what's the fucking... like, he always includes... Donald J. Trump Jr. has been on a tear, as all of his Instagram followers, such as myself, know, about the texts that Hunter Biden sent, apparently. I don't know. Yeah, it just always includes that the lawyer was the recipient of the N-word text. It seems extraneous.
It does. I also think, obviously, the biggest part of this is that DJ TJ has been an out front representative for his father, begging for him to hug him by canvassing for him on cable news. And Hunter, if they could keep Hunter Biden in a basement, they would.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's interesting. As like, I mean, this is a difficult needle to thread as well, but because I could see lots of ways of going wrong, but it honestly, like, this has been a tough week in my mind for Joe Biden. I think he's made a lot of shitty decisions and continues to be a disappointment for as far as the change that I believe the country needs. But it seems like he is a legitimately good father. I think that everyone, plenty of people have said that.
Sure.
I believe that he loves his son, and I think his son knows it. I think that Joe shows him. Whereas Donald J. Trump, I get, how many do I have again? Fucking remind me. What are all their names?
Right. Which is the one with the tits?
Yeah. What's the tit son? Fucking the two. Yeah. I think that's how we get kind of what you're talking about, of like Hunter just goes and sort of leads his own life, and plenty of it's the administration strategically being like, yeah, no, the guy who had a fucking vision quest on his 10th day of a crack binge, maybe keep him away from the cameras. But it's also like, if Hunter wanted to be on camera as much as Don Jr. clearly does, then he probably would be. But Don Jr. needs the camera to tell him, like, he needs the camera so he can hear, so he can get his message out to people who might one day love him in the way that his father clearly does not. So it's a pretty pressing matter that we get to these cameras. I just would say, for anyone who out there considering a presidential run and what kind of ramifications that would have on the country, just emotionally abuse the shit out of your kids. It's way funnier. That's the message I leave here with.
Yeah, well, actually, what's way funnier is that after you do that, they become master trolls, because I had missed this story at the time. But whenever Hunter was back in the news these last couple days, I had missed that whenever he put out his memoir, which was primarily about his struggles with addiction and all sorts of other things.
Yeah, that's why he called it My Struggle.
No, it's called Beautiful Things.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of another book.
He apparently said that when he was at his lowest point and when he was out of rock, he would smoke Parmesan cheese.
Hell yeah.
because it just looked like crack.
Does it?
And apparently or it looked like smoking cocaine. And apparently after that excerpt leaked, DJ TJ posted an Instagram story where he had a lighter, a pipe, and a jar of Parmesan cheese and said, "Parents,
God,
don't
how
let your
did I
kids
miss
do Parmesan."
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that is wonderful stuff.
Do you want me to tell you about voting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Please. No. But before we leave the Parmesan, I don't know if I've told you this story before, but just it's so close and it's a short one. It'll just take 2 seconds. Probably after I'd smoked weed once, but probably hadn't smoked it twice. Some of my friends came over and were like, "Yo, dude, we scored." And like, handed me a joint, like took me out into the woods, handed me a joint. And I should have known, like they're, whatever, dude. There's a lot of things as a 13-year-old you should have known. They were looking at me way too expectantly. And the fact that, they give you the joint first should always be a tip off. But yeah, just smoke some straight oregano. And, like after one puff, everyone's rolling on the ground laughing like fucking, what an idiot. It's just oregano. And I'm like, I'm not an idiot. And then, the second that everyone calms down, it's like, all right, yeah, let's go get Andrew and make him smoke this. And no, I can call him an idiot. It's just great. It's great.
Yeah, I think typically there you have to wait until somebody starts acting like really high.
Yeah, no, I mean,
they got to set the hook and let it ride a little longer. But you have good friends.
Yeah. We're all trying to learn our way in this world. But yeah, I can't believe I forgot about the voting story. It was difficult for me to wait to this point to hear about the details, and then by the time we got to this point, I'd entirely slipped my mind. But please, what are you voting for? Grapevine mayor?
Nah, it was a school board position.
Okay, runoff for the Grapevine school board, or this was the primary election?
Well, no, I guess this actually was the primary election.
Okay. I used the word primary oddly there. I'd mean like in opposed to runoff.
Okay, no, okay. Listen, it is the runoff. There's 2 people left, and that's the only thing on the ballot.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and to avoid, I don't know, it's a weird deal where we're publicly endorsing local candidates. Whatever, you can figure it out on your own. There were 2 people running. One of them had been on the board for a while. I want to say 5 or 6 years, maybe longer than that.
And whenever you go to their campaign website, did they list their primary accomplishment as getting the textbooks to use the N-word again?
No, that was not the candidate that we're talking about here. And I should be fair to say that that's neither one of them. But so, yeah, it's a board of trustees position. And we kind of got caught up in Grapevine Colleyville in the South Lake vortex of the action plan for diversity and for tolerance. I don't even remember what they called it now. It had a funny name. So that made its way over here, and it turned into, much like it was in South Lake, a campaign where the incumbent really has no chance at dispelling the rumors and the charges by the opponent, by the challenger, because the challenger went right for jugular on critical race theory. Mm-hmm. Now, what's so frustrating about this, and this dynamic presents itself in a lot of things that we talk about, but what I find really frustrating about it is I think over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of conversations, and some of them seemed like they were actually going to result in some headway and progress. And then I don't know that they really did. Although I guess what I'm about to say would show that they resulted in progress the other way. We're centered around, man, it's just kind of weird that there are a lot of events historically that involve race or involve class or involve state violence that we just don't learn anything about. And a lot of times you don't even really learn about them in college. But you definitely don't learn about them, before college. And depending on, what track you take in college, I would say there's a pretty good chance you just don't hear anything about anything that approaches what you would call critical race theory. So that doesn't exist. We have decried the fact that nothing approaching that, let's say it's 10% of what actual critical race theory is, nothing approaching that exists. Yet, the opponent, the challenger, was able to run on the idea of keeping critical race theory out of the schools. So something that we're already like, man, feels like we should be learning a little bit more about the history of racial strife in this country as we try to, raise the next generation. So you say that, and then you're upset that it hasn't happened, and the person who won because they were saying it's happening too much.
Yeah, so like you're saying that like no one's
dynamic.
teaching anything that you would say is like a real good, accurate version. And so even like the, kind of watered down one was still too much for the guy to keep a seat. Am I capturing
Yeah, and I don't even
all?
know that. Yeah, I think so. And I don't even know that the watered down one was being taught. It might even have just been being discussed, like with Southlake. They actually had a plan, but the plan didn't have as much to do with actually curriculum as much as it did about bullying and, intolerance and disciplining kids maybe a little bit harder if they're involved in a situation that seems like it's racially
Like
tinged.
spanking them?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You gonna spank them?
Or just how about doing something at all?
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's what's so frustrating to me about it. And so, I vote at my local rec center, and I went up there Saturday, like around, I think it was like
quick
around.
time out before we get to the actual thing. Critical race theory, like can you tell me what it is? Like I've Googled it before, but like it seems like an Antifa, and I mean I guess you're kind of summing it up as like we're trying to teach about things like the Tulsa massacre and just give people accurate depiction of the history of the country, but like. I don't know. It's just it strikes me as I think that there's a lot of things that Fox News gets worked up about, where the people that they're trying to get worked up are so incurious. They're not curious that they don't ever have to mess with putting down a definition. Cancel culture as well. Like just in political correctness before that, where I don't know what critical race theory is, and the people yelling that it's going to bring an end to Western civilization, I'm not sure that they could define it for me. Is that your experience?
Yeah, and that was ultimately what my conflict in the parking lot came down to. So maybe I can weave all this together for you, but I appreciate that there are people that are fired up about supporting candidates and about supporting campaigns and, GOTV, which I learned about from TC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I also think that when you approach someone in a parking lot outside of a polling place,
fully nude,
and you begin to question them about your beliefs, and they start to explain their beliefs to you, I kind of feel like that's a space where politeness is not really required.
Yeah, like if he's initiating a conversation about politics with a stranger, I would say he has lost the right to expect the kind of normal politeness that you would extend.
That's a perfect way to put it. And so obviously you know how this starts. They say, do you know who you're voting for today? And I said, yes. And they said, would you mind telling us? And I said, I would not mind. So I told them, and they said, why? So now we've really opened up to me a different level of decorum.
Listen,
here,
but I didn't set a bunch of. We had kind of a tight schedule. Did you tell them about the list? Your Saturday list?
My Saturday list? No, I'd already knocked out a couple items.
This isn't on the Saturday list. Explaining to you why I'm voting for this person.
And at this point, I was not thrilled to be being engaged, but at the same time, very much was. And so my first answer was, well, I'm not voting for the Q lady on your sign. And they didn't
That's
love
a good
that.
one.
Obviously.
I mean, what could they say? Were they saying she's not a Q lady, or
Yeah.
you know,
and
QAnon's just about community, really.
I'm conflating a couple of issues here. I understand that, although I do think a lot of them intersect, as our guest last week discussed with us. But they were like, she's not a Q lady. And I was like, okay, well, then I'm voting for the lady that's campaigning somewhat surreptitiously against critical race theory. And so there's an older gentleman and a younger gentleman. Mm-hmm. And I would say the younger guy was probably 30. The older guy was probably 60. And at which point, you know, they're like, so you support that? You support? And they
Me and my
literally
boy
are
here are
already
going to
calling
kick your ass, son.
They already call it CRT.
Hell yeah, dude. Get the
like, so you support
CRT out of our
CRT?
schools. Go to flat screens.
And he also,
that's a bad joke.
For a second, he took a little bit of a diversion, and he said, you know, the candidate you're supporting also supports, you know, several bonds that require higher taxes. I was like, I support all that. He was like, well, when does it end? How much taxes do you want to pay? And I was like, I just said more. And
110 if I had it, brother.
You do have a moment in these sort of interactions where it is certainly not that I was more intellectually sound than either one of these two people. However, I do think they had not had a whole lot of conversations with people like me, both that day and previously.
Yeah, which is what they're trying to do, you know?
Of course. So that's why I was a little bit more combative. And then so we got back to, he's like, so you support CRT? And, you know, I said, yeah, I mean, if you can explain to me what it is. And he's like, you first. And I felt like that was a really solid move.
I have no burden to do anything here. I came here to vote. You asked me.
But I felt it, though. Like, once he said you first, I was like, fuck, do I have to go first? And I was like, I mean, seriously, dude? I was like, you tell me what this means to you. And I tweeted this, and it sounded like a joke. It wasn't. He started with privilege. He was like, it's about teaching a wheel of privilege. And if you have male privilege, then, you know, you're not good enough if you're a male. If you're white, then you have white privilege and you're not good enough. And then it just goes on around. White, female, they're just privilege. And everybody who has this supposed privilege, they're on the wheel of privilege. And it teaches that that's bad. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, dude. I was like, but whatever. So I was like, I'm going to start with the very simple definition of looking at the marquee. It is the theory that we should be critical about race rather than accepting what we have been told about race. And so, like, you know, I started with that, and he said, see, your answer's your answer just as simple as mine. Like, he was satisfied that he had won the first round. And I said,
I am scoring that for him. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I was
mean,
like,
he had a whole wheel, dude.
His analogy was sick. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just, at this point, this younger guy has bowed out. He was like, we're not going to change his mind. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your entire operating thing here, is that you speak to someone hoping that you can change their mind. Once you realize that they can't, you have no interest in them. You're not interested in learning from them. That's not really your job on this day. And I get that. But it was, you know, applying critical theory to race. Basically, I just told him it's asking questions about how the country, any country, but in particular today, we'll talk about America, ended up the way that it did with regard to race relations, and asking whether or not, you know, what role institutions had in those things. It's really not that complicated of a concept. It's stopping and saying, can we have a conversation about how much easier it is to be a white person in this country without making white people feel bad? And if you can't, so be it. But I think we should all be capable of having logic, sort through these things, and not saying like, oh, I feel guilty and I need to feel, you know, terrible about my life. I don't think you have to say that while also saying, boy, it certainly does seem like it's easier to be white in this country. And I said, to me, you have two options. You can look at the outcomes for people of different races in this country and how disparate they are, and you can say, well, there must be some root cause for that. And then the path goes one of two ways. You could either say there might be some societal issues, structural racism issues, actual laws on the books, or you can say, I find the people who are receiving more negative outcomes to be an inferior race. At which point he said, I'm done with this. And I walked off.
Yeah.
I went in. I voted very quickly.
I'm done
On my
with
way
this.
back out, they were talking to some other rubes, and they both kind of like, looked up whenever I was walking by, and they did kind of have a huh, and I waved and I said, fellas, you asked. And that was my day.
Dude, that's like, I don't know. I am just imagining, like, if the campaign manager for that campaign is standing behind them as they're starting to, like, yell, just like, how many other people walked by where, like, you could have possibly that kind of thing in general, it's an open question about whether or not you should have poll greeters, because yes, you're going to talk to voters, but the point is to talk to undecided voters, and there are very few of those at polling places. But there are some, like, it is possible that I've heard of it happening, that someone's just walking in and is just kind of like going to vote based on whoever makes a good argument in the parking lot. But if you're there to do that kind of stuff, to try to talk to, like, this hypothetical undecided voter. And at the point where you've clearly decided, then yeah, don't waste much time on him. And certainly don't fucking, like, go 3 questions deep. Like, just a dumb use of your time. But I get the sense that, like with a lot of political activity, I don't think that these gentlemen were keenly focused on the goal of winning the election. I think that they perceive there is a culture war out there, and they would like to participate in it. And if whether or not we win this battle is really pretty fucking immaterial, I just want to get my knuckles bloody. If that's a fun way to spend your time, then fucking hang out at the Grapevine Rec all day.
And to be totally fair, I don't know that what I was doing was that different. I just didn't go there to do that for, to and against people. I went there to vote.
You didn't ask them anything. I mean, I guess you asked them what critical race theory means to them. At that point, you are being sucked into their vortex. But I'm just saying, like, you're not going around other people out of the blue just being like, hey, what are your views? And then they say them and being like, no, those are dumb.
Yeah, that's why I think that the dynamics of the interaction change a little bit, because I think the only way to proceed for them is if I said I don't know whenever they asked who I'm voting for. And I don't know who says that, like you said, because you're at a polling place, you're not door to dooring, you're not canvassing, you're not holding a town hall where people can come here to hear different ideas. You're literally just going there to do something you've very likely already decided on. And particularly in a race that was as hotly contested, not just from the percentages of the outcome, candidate that I support did not win, but from the rhetoric of the campaign. Yeah. Like when the whole thing is like, dude, there's like literal flyers that have turned up in Southlake that are neo-Marxism scare tactic flyers, like in the Southlake town square, like that this is what's happening here. And it's bonkers to me. But like I said, that day, I think Nora was napping. I felt like I had a little bit of time. Kristen was working on something at the house, and I just thought, oh, okay, well, you have asked. So I simply want to tell you that there are a group of us out there that don't think that the reason that people of certain races are receiving worse outcomes is just because they are dumb or lazy. And if that's a wild concept to you, that's fine. But I would also go a step further and say, no matter who wins this election, none of the shit I'm telling you right now is going to be taught at Grapevine High School.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter either way.
Grapevine High School.
Yeah, it's just such a weird interaction. But
yeah, and I mean, I don't know, dude. I do think, like, I understand that it shouldn't be like the number one objective in any of these things, but teaching it in such a way where you're avoiding, like, placing blame on anyone who's in the classroom now seems like a good idea to me. You know what I mean? Like, some kind of separation between, like, yes, between the people taking the land from the Indians and the Indians. I can't acknowledge most of the students in this Grapevine classroom look more like the land takers, but no one in here did anything wrong. Like, you didn't take the land. You didn't even know about it. Like, just try tomorrow to not be the sort of person who takes other people's land. That's all.
Which I again acknowledge that is a tough tightrope to walk. Like to try to tell.
And some people don't even appear to be trying. And, then I would say at that point, I am not in full agreement with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's just, if nothing else, I think that you do a very light version of here's a little bit more accurate depiction of history in high school. And then, maybe kids go into college with a little bit more, few more tools in the toolbox to process some of that stuff. But it didn't matter because none of that shit had anything to do with what we were talking about that day. That guy just realized that I was one of the aliens he'd been hearing about on television. And,
well, you could tell from the beard.
Yeah, that probably didn't help me at all. I did think about that afterward.
Although I don't think that the long beard at this point denotes a political leaning, right? Like whichever politics you have, I assume you have them extremely based on the beard. But plenty of Trump fans with beards.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how I know when I see you, and I can see you right now, that you're a classic centrist.
Yeah. Nah, dude, I got the mustache.
Okay. Barely off the center.
That means I'm a pornographic actor.
All right, well, enjoy your salmon.
Hey, thanks, bud.
What sides are we working with?
I mean, it's probably, I'm not a big side guy. I think that they might have, I know that I bought some broccoli, so, I mean, not for me. I just did the grocery run for the family, so maybe I'll throw that together. But I will end by giving you a piece of information that it is not in my best interest to give you. And I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I feel that we both owe a constant debt to the audience.
Okay.
And that's that I want to let you know that I'm going to go and I'm going to eat this salmon. And the second it's done, I'm going to come back up here to the bedroom I'm staying in. And I'm going to change into a pair of khaki pants with a button up top. Every other member in my family that's male is going to do the same thing.
Oh, no.
The ladies are going to put on white dresses.
Oh, no, bro.
We're going to take a family photo by the beach, Jake.
Oh, no.
How you feel about that?
Like someone's coming to take it.
Guy.
I hope I can avoid this. We are doing Family Galveston again later this summer. But now, if we do have to do it, I will tell you out of duty.
Thank you.
All right, man. I'll see you.
All right. Yeah.
That's it for tonight. The high school special is next, so until tomorrow, for everyone who's been a part of this one,
I'm TC and Jake.
We do thank you for watching. Good night.